James Allison has revealed more information about the W15. And although the general opinion of the media and the experts was that Mercedes is too far away from catching up to Red Bull before 2026, they might be in the wrong here. After being reappointed to his old position, Allison has made sure that Mercedes is going to follow a unique but traditional approach to the W15, with Wolff complimenting the technical director of Mercedes by saying that the car is going to look entirely different in 2024. With this in mind, could we see some battles between Hamilton and Verstappen? And even more importantly, is this the championship winning car that's going to spark the intra-team intensity between Hamilton and Russell? Mercedes suffered from two very hard seasons in 2022 and 2023. And while it does seem like they've found the right way to develop, beating a team that just came out of a season in which they won 21 out of the 22 venues is kind of a hard feature to achieve. Keep in mind that Mercedes was not even the second fastest team on many occasions in the second half of the season, with Ferrari and McLaren taking over the spotlight from the Brackley-based squad, something that Wolff acknowledged is going to be an additional challenge to overcome in 2024 as well. But regardless of what Mercedes endured in 2023, the first winless season after 2013, it became evident that they're one of the most consistent teams on the grid, and they have one of the strongest drivers pairings. So, with this in mind, could the 2024 season be one of the greatest comebacks from Mercedes after Allison's latest statement? The technical director of the team was very hyped to announce the new direction in which the car is moving. But before that, let's see what Wolff had to say regarding the look of the car. Now, one of the most obvious flaws that the W14 had was the exterior, one of the key reasons why the side pod design was changed in the early stages of the campaign. But even with this, it wasn't enough for Mercedes to catch up with the Austrian team, mostly because the problem was far from solely located in the side pod design. It was the entire philosophy, and in order for them to actually gain performance, they would have to change everything from the root. This is exactly what Wolff had planned in mind, and when talking about this matter in a further note, he went on to say, "We have a gap to the leaders, but the two teams at Brixworth and Brackley are so motivated. We have so many good things in the pipeline, so many new things, and with all the learning we had, we're really in a good place to see what's coming together. We have got to take the momentum now from the P2 in the championship and take the momentum to the factories." Of course, changing the entire look of the car does have its own consequences. Mercedes could get everything wrong again, and that would certainly mean they're no longer in competition for the championship until 2026. This, in contrast, will not only bring an angered version of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell into the conference room, but it would also allow more room for improvement for their rivals, two of which are their customer companies, Aston Martin and McLaren. It's a nightmare scenario for Mercedes, and the team will be working extremely hard to avoid it at any cost. But what can they do in order to fix the issue that hampered their progress in 2023? When talking about this matter, Wolff went on to say, "Let's be honest, Red Bull have a gap because they got well out of the blocks with the new regulations. In order to catch up, that's a monumental endeavour. At a certain stage, hopefully, they'll level off with their development speed and we can catch up. It's not only adding a tenth of downforce or so, our car had a fundamental problem. It's unstable. The drivers have no confidence in the car, and if we can dial that out, then I think we can make that step forward like other teams have done." Well, in the previous 2 years, those in which Allison was not directly involved in how the car was going to look, since he departed in the early stages of the 2021 season and came back at the beginning of the 2023 campaign, Mercedes managed to build two polar opposites of cars. The first one, or more precisely the W13, had too much rear downforce, which is why they were unable to fix it properly as the car acted so unstable. In 2023, trying to fix this problem, Mercedes ended up with a car that had too much of a top speed deficit due to the lack of downforce, and whenever they tried to add more to it, they found out the same problem. The car was becoming too unpredictable and too bad to handle. This is why Allison's comments about the W14 have brought some joy, not only to the Mercedes, but to all of the F1 fans, as we're eager to see whether or not they have what it takes to challenge Red Bull up front. Elaborating on this matter even further, Allison went on to say, "I don't know if Mercedes will be back to its winning ways in 2024. I hope that we've put in place enough of a program of work that we have put ourselves in with a shout to be back to competitiveness. In my head, it's only ever about championships. That's what Formula One is. It's a constructors and a drivers' championship. I hope that we've done enough to give ourselves a shout of being in a championship fight in both championships. If you look at the long march of F1 history, then the stats are against us. Teams do not bounce back from slipping from their previous peak and the length of time we set ourselves. But we have nevertheless set a pretty ambitious program. We have quite a lot of strength and depth here, and we've made quite a lot of progress with next year's car. Well, the progress with the W15 is too obvious to avoid, and there have been statements from Mercedes left and right about where the car currently lies, with Hamilton saying that he's much more present in Brackley and Brixworth than in the previous years, simply because he wants his voice to be heard and his feedback to be implemented. This was one of the primary reasons why he called out the engineers for not doing their job and asked for responsibility from back at the factories regarding the lack of performance in 2 straight years. But now, the narrative has changed drastically, and from believing that Red Bull would dominate the entire season in 2024, Hamilton feels like they have a legitimate chance of fighting for the championship, even though that sounded like a Mission Impossible scenario just a couple of months ago. Elaborating on this matter even further, the Brit went on to say, "It's always an exciting time of the year because I've seen the car in the wind tunnel. I always go by the wind tunnel when I go to the factory to see it evolving in whichever direction it ends up going. Literally, when I was leaving yesterday, I popped in just to see where we were, and when I come back, it'll be again a different animal. But I have full faith in everyone that's working on it, and hopeful that we'll be in a much more competitive position next year." It seems like Mike Elliott giving up the commandership to Allison has worked wonders for Mercedes, and things have gotten to the extent of Wolff saying that he's very excited to see what the engineers have prepared for them in Bahrain later this season, the time where all words would mean nothing and actions would translate directly on the track. Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton's words have been echoed by George Russell too, as the younger Brit went on to emphasise the biggest problem that Mercedes had in the previous 2 years. Having an unstable car when they saw small progress from what turned out to be a wrong concept. The upcoming year is definitely going to give us a lot more excitement, mostly because the teams are now prohibited from working on their 2026 challenges in an aerodynamic way, and what's more interesting is the fact that this actually forces teams to work on their 2024 and 2025 cars and challenge Red Bull for the championship fight, exactly what the F1 fans want to witness. But if Mercedes manages to be that team, then we're very likely to see an interesting intra-team battle between Hamilton and Russell. As the younger teammate said, that he doesn't plan to satisfy himself with equaling Hamilton's performance in 2024. Quite the contrary. His plans are to be the better driver and to actually beat him in the same machinery, something that he managed to do in 2022 and something that only Rosberg and Button have done in the history of Hamilton's career. So, what do you think about the W15's opportunities to win more races and eventually fight for the championship? Let us know in the comments down below.